Hello, everyone. Welcome to the February Sanity Meetup. Let's bring on our first speaker. So first up, we will have Saskia. She is a front-end developer and a social media and online marketing specialist. So let's everyone welcome her to the stage.
Hi.
Hello, how are
Hi,
you?
hi. I'm very
Thank
good.
you.
Thank you.
It's good to
And
see
you?
you. And where are you
Yeah.
joining from?
I'm in Berlin, in Germany.
Excellent. Um, so I guess we'll start off and I'll give a brief background. So Saskia wrote this really great post on LinkedIn all about sort of learning JavaScript and why she chose Sanity and Next.js for her projects, but also just her experience of reaching out to the community. And I thought it was just really fantastic. We all did. So I wanted to talk to you more about that. So, Saskia, I think let's start things off with like how long have you been coding with JavaScript and what would you say helped you learn JavaScript?
Um, it started because just I wanted somebody else to get into coding, my little cousin, and she was just convinced that she couldn't do it, and I just told her that yes, you can. And my background is in neurolinguistics, so I just told her it's a language. If it's a language made by humans, you can learn it, and it's just quite easy. You can do it in a year. And then she just told me to, well, if it's so easy, like do it yourself. And then I did. I loved it. And I got into JavaScript. I started with JavaScript vanilla just to get like the basic stuff first until before I started learning frameworks or anything or like other frameworks. And I just realized I really loved it. So I decided to completely change my career path and change into, yeah, web development. And so far I had just, it was all luck, like even Sanity. I found it because I was searching for a rich text editor and couldn't find one that would work for me or with me. And since I couldn't ask anyone, I just, I was completely deflated, thought about giving up and stuff. But then I found Sanity and was like, oh my God, I can read the docs. I can read them. Like I can understand them. They're made for humans, not for people who already know everything about code. And
Right.
yeah, so I just like progressed, and then I started. I searched for a new job where I knew there were developers, and I knew it was small enough for me to just like slide in through the next door or something and ask them stuff. And so they helped me a lot too. But also like I started, yeah, and then I found Henrique. I just emailed him through his website, and he invited me to the Sanity community. And then, then everything just like took off because I could just like ask my questions, get over my problems, and the more I learned, the more I had to like restart my whole project and just like discarded everything I had, like my content stuff, and yeah, and yeah, it worked pretty
Fantastic.
well for me to be honest. Yeah,
Excellent. Shout out to Enrique. He's
yeah.
fantastic. He's a great member of our
And now he's part of
community.
Janity. Yeah, Janity,
Yes,
Sanity. Yeah, it was so good.
it's very
Yeah.
awesome. So how far sort of into your JavaScript journey did you say that you started learning Sanity? Did you find that it was like a huge leap between what you were already sort of studying in JavaScript and practicing and then moving towards working with Sanity?
It was in between. So like JavaScript per se was really like that was something that I could control and stuff. But working like with a CMS, for example, I just like had a website that I used a backend, like used Firebase as a backend, so it was like very structured, and I knew exactly where things were going. And I even had like a little self-made CMS, just like with forms and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to rich text, it was just like this one thing. And I already like the front end was like the website itself was built with React. But when like I think a couple of months in, when I really, because I didn't touch the front end anymore, just like concentrated on the CMS. When I realized it was a CMS, not just a rich text editor, and that it was all like basically the simple construct or the simple idea behind it that I could understand and just like play around with, right? You can definitely immediately see what you're doing. And yeah, and then I found Next.js by accident too, just like tried it and was like, oh my God, I understand like how you get data from a CMS now. I'm just like, I get it. It's like 2 different kinds and it's very easy. And then there's a lot of like guides on Sanity too, like all your exchange platforms as well. And it was just like so easy to like get a starter, read a couple of guides, redo some starters, delete them, and then just like implement all the stuff in like the old projects, but all made like from them again. What I wanted Firebase to be, well, I didn't really know. I just like coded for myself in the beginning. I just like wanted to do stuff, but I really didn't like tutorials and stuff. So like when I watched a tutorial, it was just like, yeah, how to do like a to-do list app, whatever. And it's like, yeah, but I don't need that, right? I just
Right.
like I
You
can
want it to
download
be an
one.
actual use case that
Yeah.
you might use.
Yeah, just something that I wanted to do. And so I just like started doing that. And Firebase was something that I understood through the developer at my work. So I just like asked him, could you give me like the simplest, like we're gonna drink a beer at the office, stay longer, and then we're gonna just like maybe I'm bringing pizza. And he just showed me Firebase because it was simple. And he didn't know Sanity, but now everybody knows Sanity at my work. I'm quite a rep for you.
So along those lines, how would you say that you were able to sort of build more confidence in your coding ability? Were there specific resources that help you do that, or was it just practice? Like, what do you think helped you really build that confidence?
Like practice definitely, just like doing stuff and trying stuff. Like with any other language, right? There's a point where you start to be able to use it and anticipate stuff that you didn't learn, like just guessing for like a function or something. And I would just like wouldn't know what to write. And I think I'm just going to put in that in, and just it worked. And that was of course a great point. But it was more about when I had like a problem that I couldn't figure out, and it might be just like a small, like logical problem. I had one where I installed the Sanity CLI in my Sanity studio, which kind of like broke my whole studio, and I couldn't figure out what it was. And to be able to ask someone, and one of the Sanity DevRel answered me, and I was just like, oh my God, that's so stupid. But it was a really like I felt like I couldn't figure it out. It was too hard for me to figure out, and just to be able to understand like that was just like a common mistake some people do when they're like do stuff and then go to bed, and then just like I remember open the VS Code, and just like the first thing you do is just like you don't go into your CMS but stay in the like, you know what I mean? It's just like this typical stuff
Yeah.
that you do. And having somebody just like, yeah, no problem. It's like I did it as well. That builds a lot of confidence too. And
Yes.
then I went into like applied for the VDA, like the Women Developer Academy from Google, and they took me. Although I was like everybody there is just like I would say like a high pro already, right? It's like everybody studied that or whatever, and that also like exchanging like problems with these people and getting coached and stuff that also helped a lot. And
Excellent.
yeah,
Collaborative learning. I always feel
yeah,
like collaborative learning is one of the best ways to learn, because even
yeah,
if you know something really well, it doesn't necessarily mean that you know how to explain it to someone else. So flexing sort of
yeah,
and working that muscle of actually being like didactic and transferring your
yeah,
knowledge is like a separate skill from actually knowing how to do something well. And then also obviously, learning things also. So I think that that's really cool that you were
yeah.
able to do that. And then
Yeah, and
also
it was
you were talking about sort of this, like, recognizing the pattern. So maybe like when you were writing a function, you didn't necessarily know, but you kind of guessed. And that's all like having to deal with like language, which is what you studied, right? So
yeah, yeah,
recognizing that coding is a language, and then so you can still, once you get a feel and you have sort of a foundation, you can start to sort of guess about what might be there because you
yeah,
recognize the pattern.
yeah, and especially because normal like natural language is not defined. Like you don't even have real meaning, right? Like if you look into like most dictionaries, a dog is defined as the opposite of a cat, and a cat is defined as the opposite of a dog, which is not true. But
Yeah.
this is how like normal meaning in natural language like structures, right? But when it comes to like programming language, there is a meaning, and most probably somebody thought really hard, like, what can I call it? And then just like put this into words. And mostly it is words, right? So like the most important parts are words, and the rest you can just like get like an extension on VS Code, which will show you that you have like the wrong brackets or something. That's not really that important. But the most part is just like, yeah, language. And it's easier. It's actually easier than learning a language because it's defined. It's very structured, and you can always like look it up. You don't have to have like everything. Like you don't have to ask people who speak it. Like, can you give me a context with that? It's just like it's very defined, and you can ask people like always. Like that's one thing I really learned about that. Like reaching out to communities and finding safeties, which we talked about too. Like
Yes.
the two of us was a really like a game changer for me because there's nothing more demoralizing than an unanswered question on Stack Overflow. It's really like the one thing, like it is bad. Like a non-active community that just like you sit there and you wait and you just like feel like, oh my, it's like having a like being on Twitter and not lurking but also not having followers. It's just like
Yes. Or like
yeah.
what I think might be like slightly worse, right? Is if you ask a question on like some place and then you get sort of this kind of maybe condescending response or
Yeah,
something that is just
definitely. Yeah,
not
yeah,
welcoming, that can definitely, I think, sort of kill your confidence and like make you feel
yeah,
like, oh, I like, why did I even ask that?
yeah.
So definitely having being able to ask questions in a welcoming community. Like, I'm just always of the belief that every like good question is the one that you ask. Like there's no such thing
Yeah,
as like bad questions or like stupid questions or none of that. That doesn't exist to me. If you don't have the information and you need to get that information, the best way to do that is to ask questions. So I'm
yeah.
glad
It's
you were
about
able
you.
to do that. Did you experience any sort of nervousness or sort of stress around asking questions in the community or before you did? And if you did, like, how did you overcome that and decide to just ask those questions anyway?
Yeah, definitely. Like reaching out to one person that I can kind of like see that they do stuff online without joining a community, for example, because I just like didn't feel like I would like to do that because normally it's just not that good of a place, for example, for beginners. And just like seeing how other people's questions were answered. And for example, your ticketing system for me was really like when I realized that it was okay, this is to be like we will have a look at that if somebody else answers. Then was like, oh yeah, it's taken seriously. I can just like ask like stupid questions or things that I would kind of like feel I would probably make myself seem dumb or I don't know. I didn't want to get like bad attention, and
Yes.
that kind of changed because I saw what other people were posting, or just like, oh yeah, yeah, people don't think about what they have to say or what they would, uh, or even where to post it. Right? I would like the first times I would just like go through every channel and just like really check out what is happening there, what could I post there, and other people just like, hey, hello, here's my problem, and it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna answer it. But then also like next time go to hashtag help, and
Yeah.
the people like, oh yeah, so it was so like safe. It felt safe, and I didn't have to think about all the stuff that could happen or anything. Just like, okay.
That's excellent. Yeah, because I think it can be sort of, I think not a lot of people sort of think about, or if this is not your experience, what it's like to like think about those things, right? Or have to sort of worry about those things
Yeah,
of like, if I ask this question, is there going to be an assumption about, my ability from here on out? Or something along those lines. If that's not your experience, then you don't think about that. And you do just like, I think, post questions freely in a community. But if you are one of the people who experience that kind of stress or anxiety around asking questions, like it can be really, really hard. So I
yeah,
think one of the things that you're really touching on is if you're able to observe people in the community being kind, being welcoming, actually answering questions, then
yeah.
you're sort of modeling this behavior, right? And that will encourage people to ask more questions.
definitely. And even just like having like the documentation be really like the rock documentation back then was a little bit like Enrique's one was that was like it was good at examples, and like for a reference I would use yours, but his wasn't really. He even had like examples and exercises on there, just like amazing. And yeah, and just like the guides and the videos, which just like basic, they cover the very basics of that, right? From setting it up to how to set up a schema, um how to build a rich text editor. And once Knut's one of my first videos I saw from Sanity was from Knut, like the rich text editor with the YouTube plugin thing, and he even showed how to code the plugin, right? And I was like, oh yeah, that I can build. And when I built that, I was like, oh, I can do plugins myself, like for the rich text editor, no problem, I can do that. But if I just like read the documentation, it would be like I don't know half of the words sometimes, and just like. And worst part is when somebody, for example, I've learned JavaScript with ES6, and so like when somebody in React uses classes, I just like sit there, like, what the fuck am I going to do? Like just translating a class. It was horrible for me because sometimes when I found tutorials, I just like I searched for a very specific thing to solve, right? And then there was the classes thing, and I just sit there like, what the fuck is this? I can't read it. Why is it like did mount, did unmount? Just like what?
Yes.
And I'm just like so old, and people just think, yeah, they understand. It's like, no, I don't have like I don't have a version like free versions back. I don't have any knowledge of that. And so
there's
yeah,
like so yeah, because I think like what you're talking about, a lot of times there's sort of this like implicit expectation that you already have this sort of everybody has this mutual foundation of what is going on in the guide or tutorial, and that's obviously not always true, and I would say it's probably not true most of the time.
yeah,
um but I think one of the things that you're talking about, like we work really hard to have sort of supplemental things, which is why we have so many guides and tutorials that supplement our reference docs to sort of make sure that we try to cover some of
yeah,
that gap between maybe some implicit knowledge that folks might not have yet.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you can really like you can always find a solution, and yeah, and it's very clear what you want. Like when I'm searching for something, I won't do it on Google. I will do it in the, like for a solution for Sanity, for example. I will do this in the Sanity, like on the Sanity page in this with your search widget. And that was really important. Like you felt that somebody was looking out for you, kind of. Yeah. And I don't know, because the reason I learned vanilla, like JavaScript vanilla first, was because I really wanted to understand the basics to be able to understand everything behind it. And it didn't, it helped, of course, for my understanding of of JavaScript itself.
Mm-hmm.
But most frameworks, they were really hard for me. And like some frameworks even now that kind of like I don't pop something like I wanted to use. There's kind of like a framework for to like my brain is freaking out, like tooltips and stuff. I just wanted to have it in my front
Okay.
end, and it was just like I couldn't understand it, and was like hailed as like one of the most like lean and easiest way to do that. And it's like I won't use tooltips then. I'm just like gonna use a model because I cannot fucking figure it out. And so this is why for example for me, when I find something that really works, like not only the tech but also like the like finding out, playing around with it, and having a community where you kind of share everything is like amazing. And then I stick to that, and I think most people do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that like, this is true of life in general, right? So why wouldn't it
Yeah.
apply to like this? You
Yeah.
find you find your folks and then you stay there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
but we're almost out of time, so I wanted to talk really quickly. So what sort of sanity projects have you been working on, and how have you used sort of all of this knowledge that you've acquired?
Yeah, so I have like three big projects at the moment. One is for a stalking victim advocacy service in the UK, and I kind of just wanted to build the website because it was not that good. So I just like I found them in a podcast, looked them up, saw the webpage, and just like realized this is not a good place for stalking victims to go to. And so I just like told them, hey, we can just like make a small lean website for that. I can just like help you. And first it was just content wise, and then it just like went overboard, and now we're just digitalizing everything. So I'm gonna also have like a login part, like a safety part where you can just like log in and do your stuff, your reference parts online, because now you get it via mail, which is not the safest way to get information about. Especially when you have a stalker, this is just like something that they know where you live. And so yeah, and so we're doing that. And then I have like a small startup. Basically, I also found her on TikTok. And she doesn't have a website, so I'm doing hers now, which is just, she sells stickers, stationaries and stuff for Afro-Europeans. So it's all about inclusiveness, about loving it, and like happy, just like enjoying the blackness, and yeah, just like it's so much fun too. And so we're building up a shop in it as well, but also we want to really get the whole, all the like we want to be like a platform for exchange as well. So we're gonna go into that more. I just started that, so we're basically just like still in the kind of like setting up the whole thing, because I really want to. Since I found Sanity, it's all getting bigger and bigger. Why just do a website? Why not just like also do that and that? And then there's an artist thing, and one for my friend who she is a professor in Amsterdam, and she does gender and business, basically gender negotiations and stuff like that. A lot of on the imposter syndrome and stuff. So yeah, she also pushed me to just like talk about my story and stuff. So this is why you read my post.
Yeah, which is awesome that she did that.
Yeah,
because I think a lot of people can benefit from hearing from you. I know it's been really, really great to talk to you. I think we are almost pretty much out of time. I think we're going to move into Q&A. But thank you so much for talking with me. You're so great.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, we should talk. We should do this more often.
Yes. Let's see if we have any questions. I know someone asked about Firebase earlier, but I think we covered that. I think you answered that. Yeah. And then I think maybe Ethan is asking maybe what you plan to use for the site that you're going to build a cart with. If you're planning on using like Shopify, Snipcart, what are you planning to use?
So yeah, we're gonna do Shopify because it's just like the one thing that she already has some experience with. She was on Etsy before, but they take such a big part of the revenue. It's crazy. So yeah, I'm gonna put her up with Shopify, I think. I mean, if you have like, if the community has like tips and tricks on what to do better and stuff, please. Yeah. I'm always like happy to change everything in the last minute, because my content is now not my front end. So I can just like pivot a lot, which I kind of like, because I wanted to have it like fast, lean, malleable and stuff. Yeah.
We do have, I don't know if you checked it out yet, a really great Shopify Sanity integration tool. So you may want to look at that and see, play around with that and see how you like that. But it's pretty great. I've like tested it out a little bit. I know a bunch of people in the community have, and people seem to really like it.
Yeah. This was also one thing that I looked up. Like the decision for Shopify was that she could understand it, and I just like saw that there were even starters and stuff. So if you have to go fast, I can just like pick and choose some things and just like take it.
Excellent. So I think maybe that's all the questions. So I just have one more question, and then we're gonna wrap up. What do you think? And this is of course just your opinion. What do you think makes a safe tech community?
Well, first of all, of course, that that is very diverse. Like that's a really important part for me. Like even when I take whenever I'm applying for jobs, so at the moment I'm getting jobs like proposed to me, I just like say if it's not like very diverse or at least like to be officially, and just like pushes for it, I won't start there. And just like seeing that the people in the company feel safe enough to be kind of like the faces of the company, like especially like with you, Cap, which I saw a lot like in tutorials or just like the live sessions and stuff, that you would feel as women and people of person of color, right? I just thought like they have to have support from it, so somebody cares. And then I didn't even like feel something in the like in the channel or something here, but if you know the company cares about it a lot, then you just think, okay, I'm safe. Like I don't have to worry about it, and somebody looks out, and kind of like you feel even empowered. And it's like, yes, I want to be part of this. And
Yes.
yeah, you know what I mean. It's just like if you see if it's important to you, and I think it's important for a lot of people, then you just think like this is like an important thing. Like moderation also is very important, and just yeah, just like the positivity you can kind of
Get a sense
yeah
of it, right?
yeah
From
yeah
observing. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you so much for talking. This was a fantastic conversation. I wish we could talk more,
yeah
but we've got two other great
yes
speakers. You can find Saskia, of course, throughout the community, but also on LinkedIn. I will post the link. There we go. And so um, thank you so much, Saskia. This is fantastic. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Feel free to hang out in the Meetup channel
yeah
and talk to folks and watch the other speakers.
yeah. I'm really excited for that.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye.